right? Yeah. So those numbers are horrific. And then maybe another number or statistic that's not there and a bit more closer to home being British Columbia. Approximately a month ago, the Globe and Mail had an article come out that said in the next year, just in BC alone, there was 435,000 British Columbians contemplating traveling outside of British Columbia for some sort of medical care. So, wow. These are big numbers and scary, really. Who would have thought that there was so much need, so large of a demand? When we started this project, we knew there was a demand, but we actually really didn't know how big of a demand it was. Yeah. And when we actually initially started, we thought, we'll offer this service to Americans and Canadians. And then from there, we realized very quickly that, in Canada, there's most certainly enough of a market for us to focus on Canada. And then from there, we realized, we actually can start in BC, and even in northern BC, there's a big enough market to get us started. There is so much demand right now.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. I mean, people can take a look at this here, but these are the exact numbers we were just talking about there as we kicked off the show. Let's flip on to the next slide here.
Yeah, so that's just a little bit about us. So we talked a little bit about myself, born and raised in northern BC, but went to Mexico 30 years ago to do the drilling business. We actually sold our drilling business, though, about 15, 16 years ago now, and we did some other things after that. And here, probably about 5 years ago, my son, who's a soccer player, before I get into that, I'll back up a little bit about who we are. So myself, born and raised in the north, and then my wife, Lola. My wife, Lola, is actually a Mexican national, and she's actually a really big part of the company as well. She is in charge of our client relations, and she's the one that spends a lot of the time with our clients when they're in Mexico receiving their treatments or procedures. And so one of the important things about our service that we offer is, and one of the reasons we call it concierge service, is it's not a service by which we're kind of, getting your information and sending you off on your own and wishing the best of luck. We're actually boots on the ground. We're there in Mexico, or in this case in Guadalajara. And so, for example, Lola's part of the business is she'll be the one going with you to your appointments, be there waiting for you while you're having a procedure done, be there for translations if they are required, even though all the doctors all speak English really well. It's a very hands-on service that we're offering. And Lola, my wife, anyone that meets her is just instantly falls in love with her. She's just a very wonderful, compassionate person, and does a great job at making people feel comfortable and relaxed in situations quite often that aren't the most relaxing of situations. Medical treatments quite often aren't, they're not necessarily a walk in the park or something that we all look forward to.
100%, yeah. And I mean, I was going to bring that up too. That was a question I had. Is I've traveled a few places. I've been to the Dominican Republic. I've been to Mexico. We've traveled down, driven throughout most of the United States too. So we've been to some interesting places. But when you go to another country, it is culture shock as soon as you get there. And I was going to say, medical treatments are a pretty stressful thing anyway, and how tough it would be to go to another country and dive into that type of a system too. It's awesome to hear that you guys have definitely thought that through, and you've got people there that can kind of explain the situation one at a time. We've all had tour guides when we've gone to these places, and your experience is much better when you've got a tour guide that can bring you through some of those culture shock areas that might throw you off your game a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. It makes a difference, and we've been finding with our clients that are coming down that it makes actually all the difference. Even in circumstances where the doctor or the physician speaks English really well, there can still be little nuances that are lost in translation. And so, yeah, it's something that we're finding more and more is a huge benefit to our clients that are coming down.
Awesome.